time to the news. Last week, the White House revoked CNN's Jim Acosta's press pass after a contentious exchange with President Donald Trump at a post-midterm press briefing. During that exchange, Acosta refused to hand over his microphone to a White House intern.
May I ask one other question, Mr. President? If I may ask one other question, are you worried?
That's enough. That's enough.
Mr. President, I was going to ask one of the other folks.
That's enough.
Pardon me, ma'am. Mr. President.
CNN announced Tuesday morning that they were filing a lawsuit against the White House, alleging that they violated their First and Fifth Amendment rights by taking away Acosta's pass. The media is already hammering the White House on Acosta's behalf, but there are a few things in this lawsuit that suggest it's more a publicity stunt than it is a concern about the First Amendment. First of all, CNN's lawsuit had its own fake news. They got 5 basic things wrong. First, CNN claimed that Acosta simply asked the president a question about whether or not the migrant caravan can be classified as an invasion. In reality, Acosta started his line of questioning by promising to challenge the president and ended up having more of a debate than an actual line of questioning.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to challenge you on one of the statements that you made in the tail end of the campaign in the midterms.
Here we go.
If you don't mind, Mr. President, that this caravan was an invasion. As you know, Mr. President,
I consider it to be an invasion.
As you know, Mr. President, the caravan was not an invasion. It's a group of migrants moving up from Central America towards the border with the U.S.
Thank you for telling me that. I appreciate it.
Why did you characterize it as such?
Because I consider it an invasion. You and I have a difference of opinion.
But do you think that?
Second, CNN claimed that every single reporter at the press conference used a microphone to ask their questions. We know that's not true because CNN analyst April Ryan repeatedly interrupted the Daily Caller's Sagar Enjeti when he had a microphone and tried to ask his own questions.
Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. President.
I'm not responding. I'm responding to. Excuse me. I'm not responding to you. I'm talking to this gentleman. Would you please sit down? Excuse me. Would you please sit down? Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Third, CNN insisted that the president went back to attacking CNN out of nowhere. In reality, Acosta continued to interrupt the press conference and his colleague, NBC's Peter Alexander, after the president had already moved on.
Mr. President, you repeatedly, over the course of the...
just sit down, please. Well, when you report fake news, when you report fake news, which CNN does a lot, you are the enemy of the people. Go ahead.
Mr. President, over the course of...
Fourth, CNN refuses to acknowledge that Acosta did get into a physical scuffle with the intern. While he might not have placed his hands on her, he did use his arm to physically prevent her from taking the microphone. Fifth, CNN cited a tweet from the Daily Caller News Foundation's Chuck Ross, but they inaccurately claimed that he was at the press conference. Chuck reports from Kansas. You'd think if CNN were serious about this lawsuit that they would take the time to get basic facts right. And by the way, CNN has plenty of other White House correspondents that they could send to cover Trump. Acosta is not the only person who has to be in the briefing room. If the White House doesn't have the ability to decide who gets a press pass, regardless of how bad an individual reporter's behavior may be, then any Joe Schmo off the street can come into the briefing room and interrupt the president. Acosta has repeatedly proven himself to be a bad actor, and CNN could send any other person into the briefing room, but they send him because they love his battles with the president because it helps their ratings. If for some insane reason CNN does win this lawsuit, then the press briefings are going to become even more of a clown show rather than a place reporters go to gather the news. The bottom line is that CNN's First Amendment rights are not infringed by the revocation of Jim Acosta's press pass. I'm Athey.